was talking about something here which was really interesting, but it was cut short because I do not have enough battery. Okay, so we're gonna put this here and yeah. All right. Okay. All right. So I one of the main things I liked about about living abroad is the fact that I got to be away from my parents. Not in the sense that I didn't want to see them or that I didn't miss them, but I was able to take care of my life and go through hardships by myself in a sense. Now, it was in some cases it was a little bit extreme because having family around is important. So I'm not saying like I had to do everything by myself and that I liked the suffering or anything like that, but I think it's very necessary to have that space to know what you like when what are you like when your family's not around? What do you like to do? What do you prefer? Do you prefer to wear this kind of dress, or do you prefer to go to this place instead of another? Um, what kind of friends do you want to have, and which kind of place would you do you want to live in, etc., etc. So you kind of make choices based on your own assessment of things without having too many voices deciding what you should and should not be, what you should and should not do. So when I went to the Dominican Republic, I it was a very difficult period of time, but it also brought a lot of confidence for me, and at the same time, it also broke a part of my confidence too. It's a weird kind of situation, but the fact that I was able to navigate certain situations by myself and I had to take care of things by myself, it really helped me get the sense of adulthood and know, that I could take care of things on my own. Because I don't know how life is in other countries in the Caribbean, but I've noticed that people in the Caribbean tend to be very influenced by their families, especially before, well, let's say before 40 years old, and even at 30 years old, like 30 plus, like I have seen people who are like living with their parents. There are people who live with their parents, but they are adults, and you can tell by the way they do certain things, by the way they act, etc., etc. But there are other people who live with their parents or who are in the same town as their parents, but they cannot make certain decisions. They cannot say certain things. They cannot go to a party that they would want to go to. They cannot drink, or they cannot like arrive at the house at a certain time. I'm not saying to exaggerate or abuse this and going back home every night at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Like I'm not saying this is what one should do, but I'm saying that even very old, I'm saying very old, not old like that, but people who are adults, sometimes I've had friends who were like 29, 27, who had to ask for permission to go out or to do do certain things, to partake in certain activities. I think this is very damaging. And I don't blame these people because I've been there and there are certain aspects of my life I'm like, okay, should I ask my mom? I mean, not now, but 2 3 years ago, there were certain things that I didn't feel like I could do, even in my own home, even in my own place. I felt like I had to report to my mom. I was like, no, like, and it was a constant conflict because I was like, okay, yeah, I want to take this decision myself, but I also do not want the backlash that will come with it. So I was like, I hate doing this. I hate having to tell her. I hate having to ask her. I hate having to involve her in this because it doesn't have anything to do with her at this point. Like, it's not, and it's not the same with people who have parents that give them the space to be adults. Because with this kind of parents, you actually want to involve them. You're like, oh, mom, like, I'm gonna do this and that. What do you think? Because it's more like two individuals having a conversation, exchanging ideas. It's not a mom and daughter thing. It's not a son and father thing. It's mainly like, okay, it's another human being that has many experiences, so I'm trying to find out what they think about this, or it's someone I love and I would like to have their opinion on this. So it's very, very different. Um, and when parents have this hold on you, you cannot be fully yourself. And I understood that. I think even my finances of many times I had to I would go like I was really mad about certain things, but I'm like, it is not good that my finances always end up being mixed with my mom's and the rest of the family. It's not just my mom, it's all of us. It's like a melting pot of things. I'm like, no, like, I don't want this. I don't want to use this bank account with this process. I don't want to involve this with that, etc., etc. So at the same time, there are certain things that you want to collaborate with, because times are difficult, and I know there are certain things only I can do. But at the same time, um, creating the space to like protect your plans, your life, your goals, because obviously there are certain things I cannot do since so much of it is mixed with other people's stuff. And me also, I also have to admit there's a part of some sort of negligence too on my part, when it comes to certain things, which complicates the whole thing for me. But yeah, I'm glad I left the country at 18. I left the country, and I was able to see other things, and that's when I started to detach from people and knowing I could do things. But I also know, for example, even when I was like in another country, sometimes I would find myself asking my mom for permission to go somewhere. I'm like, she's not even here. Like, she wouldn't even know. She wouldn't even know. Why ask her permission? It's not like she can objectively assess the situation to see if there's a potential danger. Like, she doesn't really know. She doesn't even know the different areas. She doesn't. And then at some point, I stopped myself. I was like, like 5, 6 years ago, maybe 7 years. I'm like, yeah, I'm just not gonna ask her. We're just going out, and yeah. But I think that's one of the main things that I've always noticed in the Caribbean versus uh, North America, like the United States, especially, or Canada. I mean, especially the United States, because I didn't know much about Canada, but the United States, at least show the way it was portrayed in movies, and how I would see some Americans I know behave, etc. It always showed um, the kind of the kind of individual that would take responsibility for their lives way early on, early like at 19, 20, they're already doing their thing, they can work. Um, the situation in the Caribbean is much more difficult because like moving to an apartment, moving to a house at that age is not obvious. It's not like something that's easy, especially nowadays. At the time of my parents' youth, when my parents were young, yes, it was not too difficult to buy a house. Um, but for us, I mean, it is very difficult. So at 20, it's not like you're gonna buy a house, you know, or even rent an apartment. It's difficult, and with the wages that we have now, that are literally miserable, and if, especially so in Haiti, you can't really make much with that. So people are forced to stay in in their parents' house or family's house. Um, I think that also has a lot to do with you having to bow down, you having to accept the terms and conditions in exchange for having a roof over your head, knowing how things can be difficult. And even with siblings too, you feel like siblings never really detach. It's very common in Haiti for siblings to be living together in a house. Um, and it's also there's also the part where people are not having families like that. They're not getting married. They're not having children. And even if they do have children, it's usually in a very informal setting. And I say informal, meaning they don't necessarily get married, but they have children with, you know, boyfriends, sometimes serious boyfriends, sometimes not so serious. So it's not really a context in which you can make big plans with that person, or it's not a context that fosters um, development in that sense. So yeah, I think it's a mixture of things, and there's this sense there are also traditions. There are very beautiful aspects, very good aspects on our traditions and our upbringings, the way we do things in the Caribbean. Um, of course, like I'm not trying to denigrate our ways, but um, but yes, there are beautiful things. I think I got lost in what I was saying. I'm not trying to denigrate. Yeah, there are beautiful things, but also very damaging things too. Anyways, I'm gonna stop it here. Bye.